All right. Well, welcome everybody. How are you? I see people from different places. So the idea is to share my experience. That, of course, is limited to the time that I've been practicing microdosing. That is probably in the last 5 years. I didn't know that even existed. When I took the psychedelic therapy training, like 5, 6 years ago, then is when I started hearing people sharing their experiences with microdosing and I started researching and finding no match back then. Now there is more and more because it's becoming more known and people are getting more interested. It's basically based on results. If you see results, you share it with others, and others want to try it. Microdosing is using mostly is psilocybin, but it could be also LSD and other psychedelics, but in a complete different way that we are used to use it. In long journeys that it will take sometimes 4 to 6 hours or sometimes longer. Microdosing is very subtle. So today we're gonna go more in details what it is about, how we use it, what the current research says. We're gonna really hone into common mistakes that happen when people microdose. We're gonna bring clarity about contraindications, safety, what is this, what people can and cannot do it. There is a lot of misinformation, and people think that microdosing is just to get a piece of mushroom and eat it every day, and they don't have control of the dose, they don't wait, they don't have a scale, they don't even know what they're doing. Sometimes they take more, sometimes they take less. Today, you're going to have a very clear picture how to microdose. And those of you that want to share microdosing with a group of people, we're going to have a group starting in September for those that want company and community. But I will let you know that later on. Why this conversation matters? Well, there is a lot of misinformation, there is a lot of hype and a lot of fear because we think that psychedelics are addictive, for example, or that they can hurt or harm your brain. Both things are not true. Psychedelics have been declared being a Schedule 1 substance in the 1960s. And since then, they were put in the same bag as dangerous drugs like cocaine or methamphetamines or opioids. And that's not true. They are medicines. LSD, psilocybin, peyote, they are being used for millennia as ritual, as sacred ceremony, for healing. They don't hurt you and they are not addictive. Later on, I'm going to show you a graphic that is very clear about that. Where I stand. Well, first of all, I'm a therapist. I'm not a neuroscientist. I'm not a pharmacologist. So when you have those kind of questions, I will research with you because I'm not a specialist in the field. My specialty is people, healing emotions, healing patterns, getting out of toxic patterns. And I found that working with psychedelics and with somatic therapy, that has been my specialty for more than 30 years, it is a wonderful combination with quick results that accelerates any healing process. When I started including psychedelics into my practice, some people got scared. Some people asked me, why are you doing this? You are going to hurt your reputation. And I had to think about that and decide, okay, what what do I want to regret when I die? Not using psychedelics or hurting my reputation? It's such a wonderful tool when it's well used, when we know how to use it, and it's not for everybody. Like there are contraindications and some people cannot do it, but those that can do it, they can really accelerate the healing process. I love science, and I think that we can exercise the freedom today to go deeper and live this psychedelic renaissance in the way it's happening because of neuroscience. Because neuroscience is proving that they work and it's proving that it's not harmful. We can actually use now something that has been used for thousands of years and help a lot of people nowadays. There is a lot of nervous system dysregulation and mental health problems that can be really helped with psychedelics. I wrote a book that is called Psychedelic Therapy. You can see it there. That's my second book. My first book is called Memory in the Cells. That is about cellular memory and how the body stores information. As I said before, all my experiences with somatic therapy. Somatic comes from the word soma, from the Greek body. And it's about how we remember in our mind and also how we remember in our bodies. And if we know that as therapists, we can really accelerate the process of healing in people. I've been training professionals for 20 years in somatic therapy. And probably in the next few years, I'm going to start training therapists in psychedelic therapy. Okay, well, let's start with the main question. What is microdosing? It's a very small amount of a psychedelic substance that I mentioned before. It could be psilocybin. The group that is going to start in September is going to be with psilocybin. It's the most popular, is the one that is more research, more experience. I have run already 7 groups, mostly online, people in different parts of the world. In some places, finding psilocybin is very difficult, but they figured it out. That experience has shown me a lot, that I learned a lot. That's what I really love about psychedelic therapy. There is a lot to learn. It's really, really exciting. The dose is about 5 to 10% of a full psychedelic dose. So it might go from 50 milligrams to 250 milligrams. I read that some people consider microdosing even to half a gram, which is, I think, is a very, very large microdose. But usually I recommend to start low and slowly calibrating your dose as you go in your program, as we're going to go deeper in a moment. And people use it to improve their mood, improve their emotional intelligence and resilience, increase creativity for new connections, new ideas, more focus, more clarity, more presence, or expanded awareness, heal relationships, and personal growth. So microdosing is supposed to be minimally perceptual. That means you can function normally. You don't get high. You don't get hallucinations. You don't lay down and sleep for hours. That is not a microdose. In a microdose, you can drive, you can do your normal activities. If you are not able to do that, you are not microdosing. You need to reduce your dose. So as I mentioned, most of the people that come is because they want to improve their mental health. They are dealing with anxiety or depression, stress, or dealing with performance and creativity issues. They want to be more focused. They want to be more clear in their mind in making decisions. And some people, they want to heal their past. They know that they have trauma that needs to be healed. And they are open to explore new ways because whatever they have tried so far has not been working for them. As I mentioned before, psilocybin, LSD, San Pedro, peyote, you can microdose. I heard there is some people also microdosing ayahuasca. The most common are psilocybin and LSD. LSD, people think that is synthetic, but actually it's been extracted from the ergot fungus that is a toxic fungus that grows in certain grains that it was used by the Greeks 4,000 years ago for the Eleusinian mysteries. That's what they were drinking once a year. Plato, Aristotle, Pythagoras, Marcus Aurelius, Socrates, they were going to the mysteries every year for 9 days, fasting and running ceremonies, and they were drinking a potion with ergot in it. And that is why it was investigated, actually, and that's where LSD is coming from. Microdosing is not a new invention. It's something that was used by the Mazatec in Mexico, the Huichol, the Incas, the Amazonian indigenous, in the form of very small doses of mushrooms or peyote or ayahuasca or San Pedro for alertness, to deal with minor headaches, to have better sight or more stamina when they were out hunting, reduce hunger as a tonic, have more endurance, and make better decisions as groups. But then we have microdosing happening in Africa with these substances, Canna, that is a sherb for anxiety, to elevate mood, relieve stress. Iboga, that now is becoming more well-known, is a plant that is being used especially to help to get out of PTSD, addictions, sleep disorders. And then we have the pituri in Australia and coca in South America. Aboriginals, indigenous traditions, they have been using small doses of these medicines just in their daily life. Actually, the big ceremony, the one that we know that lasts 4 to 6 hours or 10 hours, in the case of Iboga, it lasts more than sometimes even 2 days. They were unusual. The way they were consuming psychedelics, it was always in small doses, or if they have to dance or they had to celebrate a ritual, they would take like medium doses, what we call now museum dose. Yeah, it's a moderate dose that goes from half a gram up to gram and a half. So if you want to visit a museum or you're going to go to the opera or a festival, you don't take 3 or 4 grams. You take 1 gram, gram and a half. Yeah, that's a moderate dose. So microdosing is less than half a gram, and minimum is 50 milligrams. So to know where we are at, we need to know a little bit of history and study pretty much with Albert Hoffman when he synthesized LSD in 1938. And in the 1950s and 60s is the golden age of psychedelics, because it's when really researchers studied it for depression, for anxiety, for addictions, trauma. It was like 10 years of thousands of clinical trials. It when really things were getting juicy until they banned it in end of the 1960s. Maria Sabina, we could say that is the mother of psilocybin in the 55 when Gordon Watson visited her, had his first ceremony, the first Westerner that had a ceremony with her. And after that, he wrote an article in Life magazine in 1957, and it was an explosion. She became famous. Tons of people visited her village. The Beatles were there, psychologists, doctors, and it was so bad for the village that she was kicked out, and they burned down her house. And she pretty much died in poverty and exile because people were so upset that she made psilocybin public. That's a very sad story, but she was the link. So because of the cultural shift that was happening, that was the end of the Vietnam War, it was a big, like a cultural revolution, and the people in power got scared, and they banned the research and studied the Dark Ages, decades of frozen science, and up to probably 20 years ago when things started coming back, especially in Switzerland, Austria. That was where the research started coming back. Now it's all over the world, and I think it's unstoppable. But we have to be very careful, always thinking in clarity, safety, education, and information so that we don't repeat the mistakes of the past. So these are the institutions nowadays that are mostly in charge of the research here in the United States, the Johns Hopkins University, New York University, UC Berkeley, San Francisco, Yale, and in London, the Imperial College in London. There are many, many clinical trials nowadays studying psychedelics, especially psilocybin, applied to many different illnesses and disorders. Whatever we know today, it might change in a year or 2 or 5 years. So this is the legal status around the world. It's changing, it's growing, the decriminalization, the legalization of psychedelics. And here in the United States, we have Oregon, we have Colorado, that there are licensed psilocybin services, and they are making changes in New Mexico. California tried last year, probably it's going to come back soon. But then we have Australia and Germany and Canada, where they're using psychedelics for therapy. As I mentioned, Switzerland and the Netherlands, they have been open for several years now. Portugal as well. And here recently, the current administration, they signed an executive order to accelerate the investigation, the research of psychedelics. So I think that it's just a matter of time, probably a year or two, and it's going to be accessible in the whole union. So what is psilocybin? Psilocybin is natural and occurs in the psilocybin mushrooms. We have like around 200 varieties of magic mushrooms, and we don't use all of them. Some have very low potency, some have a high potency, and some of them are medium potency. The key in psilocybin is the molecule psilocin. That is what happens after psilocybin gets digested. Psilocin is the one that creates all the changes in us, the hallucinations, the insights, the colors, the visions. Imagine a key inside a little box. The box is psilocybin. The key is psilocin. You need to open the box through digestion, and the molecule that creates all the changes is psilocin. So how psilocin works in the brain? It binds primarily to the serotonin receptors that are the ones actually that antidepressants use as well. That's the reason why if you are taking antidepressants, you are blocking the connection of psilocin with the serotonin receptors and in a way aborts the journey, aborts the process. That's the reason why people tapered down from antidepressants before doing a macrodose, that is the journey, the one that lasts 4 to 6 hours. So psilocin creates many changes in our brain and nervous system. It creates cognitive flexibility. That means that the brain patterns that are usual start getting more plastic, more moldable for the time of the journey and then a few weeks after, if you do a macrodose. If you do a microdosing, that is something that you do for a longer period. It's a small dose that, depending on the protocol that you're following, you take it every 3 days. So when you are microdosing, psilocin is getting into your nervous system almost constantly for 2 months. It's gradual, it's slow, it's like a rain on the fields. It's nourishing, supporting the growth of the plants and the animals. When you do a macrodose, it's like a huge storm. It's like a flood that actually changes the landscape. It could even unroot some trees, and it will change the riverbanks. Yeah. So after a macrodose, you get a sudden shift. While you microdose, you are putting drops of the molecule in your nervous system. It's like feeding a very gentle fertilizer to your plants. Yeah. It's like you don't see the change immediately. It takes sometimes a couple of weeks to see changes, although some people feel it immediately if you are more sensitive. There are very, very two different ways to use the same molecule. The benefits are similar, but very different process. So here is the graphic I mentioned before, created by Professor David Nutt, that is showing you how substances that we usually consume, mostly stimulants, as you can see, alcohol, cocaine, tobacco, cannabis, ketamine, LSD, mushrooms. The dark blue is the harm to others. The light blue is the harm to the user. See which one is first and is legal, which one is last and is illegal. This is how upside down are things in our society. Something that is social and we share with others and we have parties and we celebrate and everybody invites you to drink alcohol is the most harmful substance of all. If you want this graphic, ask it, request it. We can send it to you via WhatsApp. So as I mentioned before, I have some testimonials. They are recordings so that you get an idea what people that are doing microdosing, what they are saying. And I think that sometimes it's more important what they say than what I say, because they're actually the ones doing the program from the beginning to the end. I'm going to start with this one.
I had already had macrodose experiences with psilocybin, not really recreational, but for therapeutic purposes, for learning. But what I definitely did learn from this is that therapeutic guidance is basic, it's key, it's the whole point of doing these kinds of experiences. I'm not saying it doesn't work without guidance. Of course it does. It gives you a lot of information. It brings about some changes, but you definitely don't know what to do with them. You don't have a guide, you know. That's why when I saw this microdosing thing, and especially, well, with your support, Luis, which for me is, that's my safety net to have the confidence to do it. I achieved many things that were very important to me, a huge transformation in terms of one of my biggest fears and self-doubt in my capacity, a total and absolute lack of confidence in my skills, in what I'm capable of doing, what I learned to do. For me, it was like, wow. During that time, realizing that without even realizing it, from one moment to the next, my life and my thoughts started to change, to transform, without even having to go through a very deep process and go wallow in the dark night of the soul or any of those things, but rather in a very peaceful, very calm passage of time. But definitely noticing how day by day my thoughts were changing, my way of seeing things was changing, and seeing the results in the end. I mean, of course, this goes hand in hand with many other things I've been working on, but this was like this was it, the click of, this was it. This was what I was missing to achieve these insights. That's why I decided to do it again, because now I'm coming in with more awareness. Obviously, my intention now is different. I already changed it because the other one came out and is already integrated, right? So I chose another one that just in my last few days, I discovered was what I needed to see. So I said, here is my opportunity to lean on the group, lean on Luis, lean on psilocybin to actually achieve that goal. Because, well, I can see that's the result, right? It is important, and I say this from experience, discipline is key. I mean, consistency, because sometimes I would skip the journal. Sometimes, I mean, I would fight with the journal, actually. I had moments of resistance where I fought with things. But there was something at some point, I can't say what it was or the date or the exact place or anything, but there was something that like flipped a switch. And it's as if when that switch flipped, a veil was lifted. I started to see things differently. What I used to see as so difficult, so heavy, so complicated, so much like, I mean, I have to put in 3 times the effort to achieve it. Boom. Suddenly it came out. Suddenly it was clear. And the beautiful thing is when you start to realize that there is a real change. And when the people around you tell you, but how? Didn't you used to think this? Well, no, didn't you used to say this? They're always noticing that now you think differently, now you act differently, and different results are visible. So that valid, not that you need that, but it is a confirmation and it validates what you're already feeling.
This person refers to discipline. That is the things that we need to do while we are taking the medicine.
I sought out this kind of support to continue healing emotions that have been with me over the years and have affected my health so much. Since I've suffered from autoimmune issues for years, an illness closely linked to anger and fear. I was looking for a way to free myself from both physical and emotional pain, so I could live my life with more peace, harmony, and freedom, and learn to love who I truly am every day. To learn to take off the masks I had put on and the armor I had built up to protect myself, so I wouldn't show or connect with my true essence. During the experience, I felt very supported, with very valuable tools that Luis shared with us to help me connect with my situations. Luis's guidance is very, and with his wisdom, he helped me bring light where I didn't have any. For me, it was very healing to become aware of patterns or beliefs that were limiting me, as if I could observe myself from another perspective, which allowed me to broaden the vision of my life. Allowing myself to connect with moments from my childhood and deeply heal the relationship with my mom, and seeing how I judged and criticized her helped me so much. Accepting my place as her daughter radically changed my relationships. It has been so beautiful to be able to see her through the eyes of love and gratitude, a deep gratitude for my life, and to discover the wise woman that has always lived within her. My relationship with my partner changed. It's much more loving, where I can communicate much more easily, and where my emotions flow during those conversations. Just like the relationships with my siblings, where I can freely express who I am and how much I love them. Seeing how what I judge in others are things I judge in myself, or that I didn't want to see were mine. The anger was never with others, it was always with myself. It has been a process of forgiving myself, healing, and loving myself. It's a very deep work of reconnecting with my story, with my life, in a place where you feel very safe. The most valuable thing during this whole process was writing in the journal every day, opening myself up to experience, to feel with the absolute trust that something bigger was always holding me, and that whatever I shared during my experiences with the group always resonated with everyone.
Both of them, they make comments about the journaling, the importance of keeping track. I give them a journal so that every day they can report how are they doing energy-wise, mood, sleeping, diet, observations about the way they connect with others, the way they connect with themselves, the way they connect with nature. So they keep track of everything that is happening, even though maybe they are not taking the medicine that day. Because, as I mentioned before, the protocol is 1 day you take the dose, 2 days you rest. So it's 1 day on, 2 days off, 1 day on, 2 days off for 2 months. So the day you take the medicine, you may have the symptoms of taking the medicine. The day after, the second day, is always a very interesting day because you are already feeling the molecule in your system. Then the real off resting day, the break, is the third day. That is designed in that way by Fadiman, that is called the grandfather of microdosing. He designed that protocol because one of the things that sabotages microdosing when you take it every day is tolerance. If you don't stop and you don't take breaks, then you need to keep increasing your dose more and more and more. Yeah. So it's important to take breaks during the process, and also when you finish those 2 months, you take 1 month break before you resume into a new program. The first lady, she mentioned, I'm doing it again. Yeah. This is the second time that she's doing it. So she did 2 months, she rested for a month, and then she started the second program. Trisha, are there any questions that we can start answering now and then we continue?
Yes, that would be great. We have one question. How long should you stop taking antidepressants to get the full effect of and to start taking the mushrooms?
Well, it depends on the antidepressant. Some are shorter than others, but usually can go from 4 weeks to 3 weeks, depending. That's something that when I interview the person, I interview every person after they send a health questionnaire. Then we have a meeting and then we talk about everything that is happening in their health. And if they need to taper off some medicines, I always refer them to the professional that prescribe it and work with them in total agreement and make a plan where they don't have to face the withdrawals and the horrible symptoms that may come. So it will depend on the medicine.
There's a couple more questions. One is, do you have recommendations for where to get this?
Yeah, there are few places that we know that are responsible, that they deliver it on time, that they have a good customer service based on the experiences from past participants. We don't sell products. I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in the coaching, in the education, in the therapy side of it. But yes, and there are more and more. I mean, I see on Instagram all the time people selling, but we don't know how responsible, how serious, how much we can trust them. Nowadays you buy things online and you never get the product, because it's just scam. So
Yeah, the next question is, are the effects lasting after you stop dosing?
can you repeat the question?
Sorry, are the effects lasting once you stop taking the medication or the mushrooms?
Well, after the 2 months, there is a period of 2 to 3 weeks of neuroplasticity that people experience the lasting effects. Then the last week is when the real break happens. For some people, it's shorter. For some people, it's 2 weeks. But it's important to take a good break. In that way, you don't go into tolerance.
Okay. Another one asks, I have anxiety. The thought of doing this makes me nervous. I've tried microdosing once before, but I stopped on the first week because I felt anxious.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you were taking too much. This is something that happens frequently. People take a microdose 1, 2 days, they get anxious, they get scared, and they stop. Well, that is because they started with a high dose. They need to go down. The things could happen. One, that nothing happens. Yeah? You take your dose, you don't feel anything. You do it again, 3 days later, you don't feel anything. What does it mean? You have to go up. You need to feel something. If you are feeling anxious, if you are not sleeping well, or you are sleeping too much, I mean, you take your dose and you need to go to sleep for 3 hours. If you have digestive issues, if you are very emotional and you having a flooding of repressed emotions coming through you, that means you're taking too much. You have to go down. So it's an art of calibration. But based on the symptoms, that's why we're in the program, we are in touch all the time. On WhatsApp, people put their symptoms, what happened, what was the dose, and based on that, they had to go down or they had to go up. And that's pretty much my job, letting them know.
I have a question. In our state, both LSD and MDA is clinical trials are going on for complex PTSD, but no psilocybin mushrooms. So, how differently LSD or MDMA or mushroom uh, subtly effective on PTSD, complex PTSD, which is better, whether LSD or MDMA, because those two are clinical studies going on in our state and we can get it. But for the psilocybin, it's not approved, so we can't get it.
So, what state are you at?
Connecticut?
Well, if I have to choose for PTSD, probably the one that has shown consistent improvements, and actually is going to be legalized pretty soon, I think, is MDMA.
Okay, MDMA. Okay.
It has been working wonders for veterans.
Oh, okay. Thank you. And in case if we want to do the microdose, will the source, if you provide some source where to we can source the psilocybin, is it regulated in any way? Like,
No, it's still illegal,
mm,
but we are in a time like it used to be with cannabis before it got legalized, where it's not being enforced. No one is going to jail. They are all getting ready for the legalization. Here in California, slowly, one city after the other, they are decriminalizing psilocybin, for example. This is a wave that is unstoppable. It's happening everywhere. And they are selling it. They are selling it on Instagram. They are selling it on Facebook.
yeah,
So no one gets in trouble. Like I'm doing this, I could get in trouble, but nothing really happens because they know it's gonna be legalized soon. So you can buy online. There is a couple of places that you can get online. The people that I recommend is because I know that they are trustworthy.
mm,
Yeah.
okay, okay,
Yeah.
yeah,
I want to continue because I want to show more details. So a little more about neuroplasticity and why this is the key. This is the center of why psychedelic therapy creates so many positive changes so fast. They say that when we are babies or toddlers, we are living what is called in a critical period for our nervous system where neuroplasticity is present all the time. That's why it's so easy to learn new things when we are kids, to learn languages, new cultures, new habits, anything from walking or running or doing any task. And neuroplasticity continues even though starts slowing down as we are teenagers up to more or less 25 years old. That's what they have studied. Then there is very, very low neuroplasticity for us adults. So it's like our system gets rigid and we have the tendency to repeat patterns and always stay in the comfort zone with the familiar in our thoughts, in our habits, the way we see ourselves, the way we see others. That's why the older we get, the more rigid we get. Yeah, less neuroplasticity. Thanks to neuroscience and brain studies, they realize that when we are under the influence of a psychedelic during therapy, a new critical period opens up. And there is neuroplasticity that lasts sometimes several weeks. And that is the period where we can actually see with new eyes, hear with new ears, start making changes. And this is the key of the work that we're doing. Because in the case of microdosing, that is taking a small dose periodically, 2, 3 times a week for 2 months. What we are doing is we are nourishing our system with the molecule, and our nervous system enters a period of neuroplasticity. That's why I always say when we microdose, the substance is not important. What is important is what we do while we are microdosing, how we support that openness, that flexibility, what new habits, what new rituals, what we stop doing, what we start new, And when we do a microdosing program, the most important thing is what you do while you are microdosing. It's not like taking a mineral or a vitamin that you take it and you forget about it. When you take microdose, you set your intention. You change your ritual in the morning when you are taking the dose. You support it with somatic activities, connection with nature, with music, with animals, with yourself. So it's not just taking a substance. If you take the substance like a mineral or a vitamin, you're not going to get the benefit that you could really get if you support it with change, because your nervous system is open to change. Psilocybin creates a window of increased brain flexibility. The Imperial College in London documented significant reductions in DMN activity following psilocybin. DMN is the name that they put to a part of our brain that is called the default mode network, and is the brain in autopilot. When we are taking psychedelics, both in macro and microdosing, the DMN dominance is reduced. Sometimes it's totally silent. And that is the miracle. Why? Because this default mode network, look at the name, default, is automatic. It's the part of you that you don't have when you're a baby. It's being fed with beliefs, with culture, with opinions, with self-image ideas, what I believe other people are, what life is about, what I'm here for, my roles, my habits, my behaviors, my name, my history, my problems, what I deserve, what it should, what it shouldn't. Everything is there. When you open your eyes in the morning, the default mode network wakes up. And then it's like the rumination starts. This is what I had to do. This is my problem, my fault, it's their fault, my life, I shouldn't. Yeah, that is what comes down when you take psychedelics. And what is left? What is left is you. What is left is who you really are. I always use this example. If when I was born, a new family adopted me and we live in another side of the planet, in another culture, with another language, different costumes, different politics, different religion, I would be a different person. I may even be a communist because I live in China. And if I live here, I'm a capitalist. I'm a Christian, and I don't like certain races or certain religions. And if I am over there, I don't like Christians. So the being is the same one. The programming, the persona created by culture and beliefs is different. That is the part of us that comes down when we are doing psychedelic therapy. And that's why it creates so many ahas and so many insights. And it is so empowering and so healing. Because let's be honest, most of the issues that we have are coming from the DMN. That is the part of us that's created most of the pain that we suffer, and the stress and the anxiety and the depression. Make sense? Now, having insights, having these big ahas during psychedelic therapy, both macro or microdosing, is not enough. As I said before, we need to support it with new habit, different choices, healthier relationship, that means sometimes I realize, what am I doing in this relationship? Why am I keeping this friendship with so and so? Or why am I still in this relationship with this person? Or why I'm still in this job? The persona says, yes, you should stick to this situation. Who you really are says, no, that goes against my values. Make sense? So the insights that we have open the door, the action creates the change. So the molecule, the medicine, opens the door you have to walk through, supporting it with activities that take you away from the rumination. Usually, insight without integration, that is what we do, that is so important. Probably the most important part of psychedelic therapy is not taking the substance or having the journey, is the integration of the awareness that you have, the insight, the new perception, the new ways that you are seeing life. And integration is the key, the center of this kind of therapy. So here are the doses that I mentioned before. Maybe you want to take a picture of this. A low dose is 50 milligrams. A moderate dose is 100 milligrams. Usually we start somewhere there. Some people had to go up and some people had to go down in the group, yeah? Then a higher moderate dose is 200 milligrams up. And as I mentioned at the beginning, some people are talking about half a gram, 500 milligrams, that I consider a very large dose. You don't have to do such an amount because in microdosing, less is more. Remember this. This is the mantra. Less is more. It's not about, oh, because it's working, I'm going to take more. No. It's preferable if you take less and still get the same results. Make sense? That's the reason why microdosing is not the same for everybody. Let's say that we start with a group of 10 people. We all start with 100 milligrams, and some people end the program taking 250 milligrams. Some people are taking 180, some people are taking 100, some people are taking 50, and few may take 35. So why is that? Well, there is an individual neurochemistry that makes people more sensitive. Usually it's the people that are more sensitive to everything. They're more sensitive to coffee, they're sensitive to alcohol, they're sensitive to other medicines, they're sensitive to the light, to touch. So those people cannot take not even 100 milligrams. If you are one of those, your dose is going to be low. It also depends on the mushroom potency. Remember I told you some mushrooms are high potency and some mushrooms are low potency. Your experience level also is not the same a beginner to someone that has been doing psychedelics in different ways in their life. And also your emotional state, what's going on in your life. Yeah, it makes you more sensitive. So you may notice that those days that you are activated emotionally, you need a lower dose. As you can see, it's about being present. It's about observing. It's about comparing. It's not like taking a vitamin or a mineral every morning and I forget about it. No, it's about really being present and surrounding your microdosing practice with rituals of meditation, of body work, somatic movement, going out in nature, especially starting your day when you do microdosing, changing your habits. Do something different the day you microdose so that your brain says, oh, things are really changing. Here are the protocols that I was mentioning before. The Fadiman protocol is the 1 day on, 2 days off. It's probably the most common. There is the Stamets protocol, that is 4 days in a row on, 3 days off. This is usually chosen by people that maybe they work 3 or 4 days and they rest the other 3 days. Depending on your schedule, you can experiment with both and see which one works better for you. There are protocols that is 1 day on, 1 day off. I like the 1 day on, 2 days off. Works mostly with everybody and works very well. So this is a question that I get a lot. What should a microdose feel like? Well, as I say, it's subtle. It's not a trip. You don't hallucinate. You are not high, but it's not nothing. Something has to happen. Like you notice maybe your mood has changed. Maybe you feel more light. Maybe you feel more calm. There is more focus, less mental chatter, greater awareness. You notice things more, colors, sounds, textures, feelings in your body. You notice what happens to other people as well, like you become more empathic. You might have feelings that before they were suppressed. That's why you need to have tools how to deal with emotional release. Signs that the dose is too high, you might have what is called uncomfortable sensations or feelings. You may have, you take your microdosing and suddenly you feel anxious, you feel restlessness, unease, agitation. You may have too many emotions coming that are overwhelming. You may feel tired, fatigued, sleepy. You need to take a nap, or difficulty focusing, scattered attention. It's like you are not here. Yeah. So what does it mean based on what you just heard? If you have any of these symptoms, what do you have to do? You have to reduce. Yeah. Until you find your sweet spot where you can function and you notice, this is my microdosing day because I feel more relaxed. I feel openness. I feel light. I don't feel so reactive, so defensive. I'm more connected with nature. That's one of the things people keep bringing up, the connection with nature, how changes when they microdose. So sometimes people come to me and say, yes, I've been doing microdose. It doesn't work for me. When I take it, I get super anxious. Well, you need to reduce the dose. When I take, I get sleepy and I had to sleep 3 hours in the morning after I woke up. Well, of course, you need to reduce the dose. Why? Because they think that that capsule is their dose. So they buy capsules of 100, 200, 150 milligrams, and that's the dose that they take. They don't know that they had to open it and calibrate the dose. Make sense? The biggest myth, the substance creates the change. No, the substance facilitates the change. You make the change. The substance opens the door. You go through the door. If you don't get proactive, it's going to be just another experience. If you really want change, you have to implement different things that are changing in your life. Like the rituals I was mentioning before. For example, meditation is a great ritual in the morning. If you don't have that habit, well, at least you take your dose and you sit for 10 minutes and you focus on sensations in your body, your breath. Even that creates a huge shift for your nervous system. Or maybe you don't move much. Well, maybe you want to start a movement practice. You go to a yoga class, or you do Tai Chi or Qigong or breath work. You go for a walk in nature. Change your morning. If you do that when you microdose, so many changes are going to happen for you. And I haven't mentioned it yet, have an intention. It's important that you have an intention that is ecological to your being. Ecological in this case means that nothing in you gets hurt because of your intention. It doesn't go against any of your values. So why microdosing doesn't work for everyone? Well, you're taking the wrong dose, lack of intention, unrealistic expectations, expecting a quick fix. Otherwise, I stop it. Yeah. If you are going to start a program, be consistent and finish it, because you will see a lot of results in the last weeks after the psilocybin accumulates in your nervous system gradually and kindly, like the fertilizer I was mentioning before to the plants. Lack of integration. Integration is key, is the processing, is the journaling, is the reflection on my life, is the being present to patterns in me, the repetition of habits, behaviors, noticing my communication, start making slight changes in different behaviors and see what happens. Integration is about asking yourself the right questions. That's why when we work as a group, we meet every week live on Zoom, and there, for each week, there is a set of questions that trigger awareness and reflection and the processing and the digestion of the insights. Also, paying attention to your dreams. During microdosing, dreams get activated, and people that never had dreams, they start remembering their dreams. Ignoring the body and avoiding discomfort. That is the habit of suppressing my feelings and emotions. That is something that our culture installs in us as a habit of praising rationality, praising thinking, and minimizing, dismissing, even making fun of feelings. So you have to have a private practice of feeling. You cannot do that in front of other people. Yeah, it's private, it's intimate, but you feel what your body is feeling. In that way, you start creating body-mind integration. That's a key for healing. That's something that I've been using in somatic healing for several decades now. Installing the habit of feeling and reduce the habit of thinking. If you do that, so many things are going to improve in your life. So here there are some examples of intentions. Maybe you want to take a picture of this, a screenshot. Like, my intention is to reduce anxiety and chronic stress. What does it mean? Well, I want to feel more calm. I want to feel more self-confident. I want to improve focus. I want to be more creative, feel more present with my loved ones, reconnect with my purpose in life and meaning. Your intention is always something that you value, that is important for you. Like if I meet you a year from now and you say, "Oh, Luis, that process was amazing. It changed my life." Okay, why? Well, now I'm more relaxed, I sleep better, I treat my loved ones, with affection and care. I'm more empathic. All right, that's your intention now. What you want to get in a year or in 6 months is your intention now. Make sense? What am I willing to do alongside this practice? Okay, we talked about this. Keep a daily journal, attend therapy. If you are doing therapy, keep your therapy and let your therapist know that you're doing microdosing. Spend time in nature regularly. Have a consistent sleep routine. Join a support group or a community of like-minded people so you can share. Reduce stimulants like alcohol or tobacco or sugar. Practice meditation, dance, breath work. These are things that I mentioned in some way. And having someone to talk to. Maybe someone you trust, like a therapist or a coach, a friend, a partner, or your microdosing group. It's important that you process this, that you digest what's going on, because the tendency is to get stuck. So we covered these points of integration. This is what you do while you are microdosing. And after this, we're going to go into what is this, who is this for and who is this not, contraindications and safety. But for those of you that want to know how to go from here, we have a WhatsApp community that is called the Psychedelic Somatic Community. It's free, it's on WhatsApp. And there we put educational material, research, videos. If you want to learn more, join that community. So you can text us or WhatsApp to that number and we'll let you know how to do that or we'll invite you. If you text through WhatsApp, it's going to be easier to invite you. And then the guided cohort that is starting on September 2nd at 6 p.m. And some people are going to start later because they're traveling and they have different reasons. But we're going to get together on September 2nd. We're going to start. The group is small, it's around 10 people, so that we can actually pay attention to everyone and work really, really in detail what's going on with each of you. It's the same number. Send us a message there. You get my book, Psychedelic Therapy. You get the journal. You get the manual with all the details of how to do right microdosing. You get 8 meetings live on Zoom. You get access to a group on WhatsApp that is just for your group, for your cohort, that is confidential, so that 24/7 you can post questions, observations, reports. Contraindications. If you have any mental health diagnosis or you are under treatment, you have to really watch and talk with a professional that knows about psychedelic medicine. Usually people that suffer bipolar disorder, they have psychotic incidents in their life, schizophrenia, or they have cardiovascular disease, blood pressure issues that is not under control, and certain medications. Some psychiatric medications may interact with psilocybin, mostly numbing the effect, so pretty much you're wasting your time, and it can be very disappointing. So if you have any of these issues, it's very important that you consult, you inform yourself, you educate yourself very well before you make any decision, because safety is first. And here there is a list of things. There are many more, but these are, you can take a picture of these resources to explore about microdosing, to educate yourself. The Psychedelic Explorer Guide by Shane Fadiman, How to Change Your Mind. That is a Netflix show with 4 episodes, very informative, very educational. Don't miss that one. And these other 2, these are books. The last one is my book, Psychedelic Therapy. Go slowly, start slow, observe with open mind, honest, and integrate what you find. Any other question? You want to hear testimonials?
Very listless, unmotivated, and just tired of my work and my profession. I was looking for clarity, looking for a new direction to be able to steer my life toward a new vocation or profession. How was my experience with the microdosing program? Well, right from the first doses of the mushroom medicine, they allowed me to rest so much better, to have a different quality of sleep at night, which was also something I needed to improve. I experienced specific moments on many days and even entire days of feeling a great inner calm, like I was going through daily experiences from a new space of tranquility and peace. Another benefit I found with the program was that clarity emerged around a new personal vocation, which was kind of my main intention, a new vocation that until then I had never even thought of. And well, I'm about to start an introductory training soon in this vocation. So, well, I'm very happy about this. During the program, I was also able to start and maintain a new habit of physical activity. I always thought and believed that the gym wasn't for me. And well, I gave myself the chance to go, try it out. And today I'm keeping up with this physical activity that I feel was necessary. In my relationships, I noticed that I was able to set healthy boundaries with some people, which I couldn't do before. I also want to add that combining the mushrooms with CMR was a huge help for me. I was able to reconnect with my feeling with a capital F in my body, and in this way, release a lot of old burdens and energetic blocks that were stored in my body, waiting to be acknowledged. Today, I'm taking better care of myself and my needs. And I also want to add that before the program, I tried to microdose on my own. I got 1 gram of dried mushrooms and would consume a little piece a day on an empty stomach. But the reality was that doing it that way, I didn't find any benefit, and got frustrated. So I consulted with Luis, and he offered me the chance to do this program of psilocybin microdosing with therapeutic support and in a group. And then I understood that it was really necessary for me to discover my own daily dose. And that's how it went. By finding the dose that fit my own energy, only then was I able to start finding and receiving the benefits of the mushrooms. Well, I deeply recommend this microdosing program, and I deeply recommend CMR. I think these two therapies combined are very enriching and very healing. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Luis. I embrace you from my heart for so much openness, for so much support, and for so much dedication.
Any other question?
Do they lose their potency after a couple of
Yes.
years, or do they expire?
Yeah. No, they don't expire, but they lose potency. Yeah. If they lose potency, you take a little more, you know?
Okay, I'm very interested in your group, so I'm going to message you. And thank you, Luis. I really, really appreciate you having this. I found you on Facebook, just looking it up, and I feel like I manifested this for myself because I need a lot of healing with PTSD from childhood and just adult trauma, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, I'm glad you find me too. That's the idea to share information and grow together, learn together.
For how long are the classes?
The meetings, the live meetings, you mean?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, usually, well, it depends on the group, but usually they go from 1 hour to 1 hour and a half every week. Yeah, the program is 2 months, 8 weeks, and they are recorded in case that you cannot attend. Some people they are never able to attend because of the time. They're in a different country but they access the recordings.
Do you also have private meeting?
Yes, you have a private meeting with me at the beginning, then you have a private meeting with me at the end when you
Okay,
finish the program. Yeah,
thank you.
you're welcome. Everything is included in the price.
Okay.
Everyone has to be very clear, have all the information that they need to make a clear decision because this is unknown, this is new. So
No.
the more clarity, the more safe we feel. Psilocybin is an accelerator. It accelerates processes, yeah? And it's an amplifier at the same time. A faster, quicker is like shortcuts, yeah? The process of human evolution and growth, it happens in so many different ways.
Yeah.
This is a way. This is one of the ways, yeah?
Mm-hmm. It's one of the ways.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. That's great to
You're,
learn about that. It's really nice.
you're welcome.
How helpful is buying your book for learning microdosing if we're not able to do the class?
Well, my book is about psychedelic therapy in general. Yeah. Microdosing is a part of it, but it's about educating us about all the different parts that we need to know if we're going to go into psychedelic therapy and we're going to use those medicines.
And does the class use microdosing while you're teaching it?
Oh yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You're microdosing 1 day on, 2 days off for 2 months. And once a week, we meet with the group. But you do that at home. You do that every morning when you wake up.
So you're supposed to have all your supplies or, for microdosing before September 2nd? And is the group on Wednesdays this group for the next 2 months?
Um, No, most of the people don't have the supplies on September 2nd. Sometimes people are waiting for it. Sometimes it comes a week later. What we do on September 2nd, we get together and we are all on the same page with all the different details that you need to know. And then people will start whenever they start. I will support you until the end.
So, Luis, I have a question. So, the purpose of the meeting once a week is just to share experience. I have questions and things like that.
I also teach strategies and different therapy processes. And remember, for integration, because those meetings are helping you to integrate what you're going through, the symptoms, whatever is happening. For integration, the right questions are the one that trigger the insights and the embodiment of the experience. So there are processes, there is coaching, there is sharing. We adjust the doses there. People ask questions about the dose. Based on the symptoms, I tell them you need to reduce the dose or you need to increase the dose. It's touching base. It's important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Thanks.
Thanks you everybody to be there too.
Yes, very interested. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.
You everybody, and we stay in touch.
Okay, I
Have a good
will.
night.
Bye.
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 Thank you.
Bye bye.